Hey folks, my name is David. I work for Forest here in Dublin, and a few of us here probably be sick of us later on, but also from Dublin, so welcome to our fair city. Hope to join you for some Guinness later. Before we start, I invite you for a couple of breaths with me. So in through the nose, and we'll hold in. Hold, 3, 2, 1, and out. In through the nose. Hold, 3, 2, 1, and out. Last one, in through the nose. Hold, 3, 2, 1. That was for me, not for you. So yeah, I'm going to tell a little story today, story time, not too many technical slides, but we'll talk about one of our large legacy Ember apps at Forest, probably about 120 lines of code. And it is legacy because some of the original developers, all of the original developers have left. I think I see one or two here. Orange Embers. So that's why we call it legacy. And thanks to Stable Diffusion for these slides, I didn't draw them myself. So this app, we'll call it Project Alpha, was born in 2017. For context, Forest was a Java Swing house before, so all our front end was written in Java. 2017, we said, okay, the world's going to web, we may as well join them. We started developing some web screens, and they were embedded inside the Java app. So yeah, we didn't have to worry about things like authentication. We would pass a token to the web screens, and we didn't worry about responsive web design. Sorry, Melanie, it was a desktop-only app. And yeah, obviously in 2017 then, you know, Ember Classic wasn't classic yet, but it was classic then. And yeah, we used Ember Data. Now, our API had already been designed, so Ember Data was heavily customized with, you know, a lot of serializers and transformers to work with our existing API. And yeah, these are the formative years. 2017, our little app was in its early childhood and starting to grow up. So moving into the adolescence between 2017 and 2021, the innocence of youth, everything's going well. Ember Classic was being heavily developed, building out components, building out the data layer as well. So these are our adapters, serializers, you know, a lot of development going in, and the code base is ballooning. Some of our policies then was what I call the kitchen sink approach to add-ons. So if there's a piece of functionality required, we would just throw an add-on at it. And the package.json was growing. One example was something called Ember Color Pick, which is a color picker. So if you want to choose a color, it'll allow you to pick something from a spectrum. So instead of implementing our own, we would throw in a package. So keep that in mind. And then, let's see, about 2021, the new kid in town. So we call this Project Beta. Love the Barbie car. So this is when we decided to retire our Swing app, which we all hated, and very hard to find front-end developers that love creating Swing interfaces. So we decided to replace the Swing component with a new Ember app, and this would handle the desktop. Now it's embedded, or now it's implemented as an Electron app. And this app then would also do the authentication, and we're using more modern practices, Ember Octane. We're using Embroider, Tailwind for CSS, and moving away from Ember Data, dare I say. As an organization, we implemented a graph API. So we were unifying all our different APIs into a single graph. So Project Beta, the new kid, would use Apollo for its data layer. So that's the context then. So we head into our crisis. This is our project alpha. Here he's beating his guru in the mountains, and this is the crisis of confidence now for the early app. We begin to start to reason about its fate. Obviously, it's becoming legacy at this point, and some of the patterns, such as Ember Classic, are going away. So what does that crisis look like for our developers? Well, as I said, our original developers had left at this point. New guys are coming on, guys and girls, and they're saying, WTF, like, what is this app? You know, they're not familiar with Ember Classic, and some of the original design patterns that we used are becoming maybe out of date, and we're starting to question what happened in 2017 and was this the right decision made at the time. I call this the past trauma. Past trauma meaning some of those decisions are starting to haunt us. I'll use that example of that add-on Ember Cold Pick for picking colors that has not been maintained. So, you know, we'll have trouble, say, upgrading to embroider if a lot of our add-ons are not being maintained. They're still V1. So some of our past decisions in this case are catching up with us. Now, we did try a therapeutic intervention in the sense that we started to move the components over to Octane, and the policy was, you know, if you touch a component, it's your responsibility to convert it to an Octane component. Obviously then, you know, if it's a small fix, then the scope of that fix balloons because you have to then upgrade your components as you're going. So that didn't go down well. Also, a tool called Link to the Future. Thanks, Chris, if he's here. Not bad. We use this as a dashboard to see how many deprecations we had in the app and give us an overview of how fucked we were. So, and then this app then, again, therapeutic intervention. How do we give this meaning as we're going forward? We ended up using an iframe to embed this older Ember app in the newer Ember app. And obviously then with an iframe, there's a little overhead with message passing and authentication tokens being passed around, and makes it more difficult to debug with one Ember app inside another Ember app. So a good therapeutic intervention, but maybe not a long-term solution. So here we have middle-age. I think he has the same haircut as me. So the search for meaning. So, you know, we've identified our traumas. We're looking for, our meaning now. How does this earlier, older app, what's its place in the world? You know, this is where we are right now in Forest. You know, we're starting to reason about our place in the world. Like there's business value in this app. We don't want to rewrite on the new stack. I give the example of staff rosters. So this is a way, obviously, to manage who's working when in the salon. You know, managing vacations and blah blah blah. It's a good chunk of code, and there's no appetite on a managerial level to spend resources to rewrite that in the new app. So this is a chunk of code that, you know, maybe we can move around, or we can do something a bit clever rather than throwing a lot of developers at this problem. So what are our lifestyle choices so we can, you know, live a good life and start to age gracefully? Okay, this is the Monolith, and this is a frightened little app. So, you know, we have to reason about, or we have to ask our managers for time, for resources to do this work, and for that we have to ask why. Why would we spend the resources to rework this app and to bring it forward? Number one, then, to improve the UX. As I said, we're embedded in an iframe before. this is a bit clunky for the user. They'll have to spend a little time loading the new assets rather than preloading or code splitting or doing some nice modern stuff. If you're in an iframe, you have to reload or you have to load new assets. So if you're clicking around an app, there's going to be some bad UX there as the assets are loaded inside that iframe. Also, our design system has changed. As I said, we moved to a Tailwind, and the old design system, which is inside that iframe, does not exactly match the new iframe. So our users might be seeing some design language inconsistency. Then number two, improve our developer experience. As I said, new hires are coming on, and if they have to look at this older legacy app, there's a bit of a steep learning curve for Ember Classic and some of the old patterns that we used. So can we improve it for developers? And obviously then the older app is not Embroider, it's going to have longer build times, and that's a pain. And number three then, hopefully one day we can sunset this app, as all legacy apps should be. One day it can go away and we don't have to worry about these things anymore. So that's the why. This is what we use to bring these rework proposals to a table of people who decide our time, and also to the development team who resist doing unnecessary work, of course. Right, aging gracefully. Not sure why Stable Diffusion put a mini hamster down there, but there we go. So we're in our golden age. We have our robes. We're satisfied. We've lived a good, healthy life. And what can we do then to age gracefully? So one proposal then is the Monorepo pattern. And Monorepo, we talked about it yesterday, but it's a way to have separate projects inside a single repo. And obviously then it's a single repo, so if you're doing a PR, a change request, it's a single PR. You don't have to manage different PRs and update version numbers and doing that dance. A Monorepo allows us to have separate Ember projects inside a single repo, so it reduces the friction then in making changes. So let's have a look at a little diagram. On the left there we have our monolith, and everything's thrown in together. The design system, the data layer, the details are all a single app. Design system, so that's things like inputs, buttons, but they live together with the features, the feature components. Everything's thrown in together. And this is more the organic method of growing the app. Like I said, our monolith has 120,000 lines of code, and that's split between the design system, the data layer, the utils, and all the features such as staff rosters, like I talked about. One proposal then, again, I'm not dictating that this is the way to go, but we are proposing this to our development team as a way forward. So we might take our features out and as individual modules, split them into Ember engines. So when I navigate to rosters, it loads an engine for staff rosters, and all the code to render staff rosters is in its own module. And then on the right here we have, I don't know how to do that laser thing. On the right we have, these are common add-ons. So design system, these are our UI elements, inputs, drop-downs, all that good stuff. Our data layer is our serializers, our transformers, our adapters that we need to talk to our non-standard API. And then we have utils, so modifiers and helpers and all that good stuff. So if we can imagine splitting our monolith into these modules, we have a way to move to the Monorepo. Why not use Embroider? Well, if we think about the future, we want our modules to be isolated and portable. So it's not about using Embroider, it's about creating modules that are portable. So ultimately, we might get to a polyrepo situation where we break out our modules into their own repos. And for Embroider, there's, like I said earlier, we have a lot of incompatible third-party add-ons. So there's the concept then of the in-repo add-ons as well. But again, that doesn't solve the problem that we want our modules to be portable. And with in-repo add-ons, you can't have tests. They don't have their own tests. The tests are part of the host app. So that doesn't solve the problem at all. We want our test coverage to be portable as well with the module. So a couple of tools then we might use for Monorepo. There's Yarn workspaces. That's to manage your node modules between different modules. And then we have a tool called Lerna, and that means we can upgrade shared packages with a single command rather than having to upgrade package versions in each part of the Monorepo. So that's the concept. Let's have a look at what happens if we, in the future, because this is only a proposal, in the future, we have our postmortem. So this is our not monorail, Monorepo. So let's imagine this is maybe 2 or 3 years in the future. We can look back and say, did we solve our problems? And we go back to those 3 whys. So the first why was our user experience. We can imagine if we have moved to the Monorepo, each feature is isolated and it's portable. What happens then is, okay, suddenly we have this feature module for staff rosters. It's isolated, it's portable. I can move that into our main app. So we can remove the need for an iframe. It's just a normal add-on dependency in our main app, okay? So the iframe goes away. We can do nice things like code splitting. We can improve the experience for our user by not making them wait to load more assets in the iframe. Number 2 then, for design consistency. Now I have my feature module. It's gone from Monolith to Monorepo and maybe to polyrepo. But that feature module, staff rosters, for example, I can move that into the main app and I can change the design system to our new design system. And this can happen gradually over the space of those 2 years. So that's our user experience. So number 2, we said we want to improve our developer experience. And here we have an isolated portable module called rosters. And that's less intimidating than this 120K line of code, Monolith. If I want to make a bug fix on this module, it's a smaller, much smaller module and less intimidating for new developers to come onto. And yeah, obviously then build times are much improved with smaller modules. I don't have to wait for several seconds to make a change. Those 120,000 lines of code become a much smaller module. So our developer experience is improved. And then number 3 then, we said, we want to sunset our monolith. So one day that will die. Now what happens over those 2 or 3 years of reworking? Slowly, everything goes into a module and is moved into the Monorepo or ultimately a polyrepo. So what happens? Well, the host app, just suddenly at one point there's nothing left. Everything has been modularized, and we can actually sunset the monoliths. So this is one path we can walk. Again, there are challenges here, and right now it's in the proposal stage. So we're bringing this to our team of developers who are a little bit angry sometimes. Maybe it's too early in the morning and they don't want to do more work than is necessary. So what we do is we show leadership, which is getting everyone to buy into the vision, right? This is a shared vision for the architecture, and if everyone buys in, then It's not like we're telling you what to do. It's like, no, this is great for everyone, for the organization, and we go back to those 3 whys as a way to justify this, both to developers but also to the decision makers in terms of allocating time for this sort of work. So once we have the vision, then we can assign roles to individual developers. And I'll talk about one of our interesting development processes in a minute. Before that, then, yeah, I've already seen some technical challenges with this proposal. Something like translations. So our translations are all in a big JSON blob. So how do we break that up? They're kind of shared between different modules. So yeah, that's one to flag. And then also for feature flags, we use launch darkly, and suddenly you have to break things into module, and then some of the dependencies, like launch darkly, they have to be broken into modules as well. So it's not yet a perfect solution. There's always sand in the ointment. So just to let you know that it never goes smoothly. All right, so we talked about our 2 to 3 year plan to do this if we choose. So we don't want to have all the developers suddenly work on this and then everything is blocked and nothing happens in our day-to-day. No features are written, like we're all swarming on this to do it. No, we don't want that. We want the business to go on. So we have something in Forest called Wiggle Weeks. Wiggle Weeks. I don't know if anyone is old enough to remember hamster dance from the early 90s. So the Wiggle Week concept, it's a development pattern or process in Forest. 1 week in every 7 we call our Wiggle Week. And this gives, week 1 to 6, we're pumping out features, we're doing our maintenance, we're doing all our normal jazz. Week 7, we give our developers responsibility to identify something that they might think is required, such as upgrading packages or working on some bug that no one has complained about but really annoys them. And this is an opportunity to work on a re-architecture like we talked about. So you might have 1 week, and for that Wiggle Week, no distractions, hopefully, and you can actually really get stuck in and get into flow state. If you're spiking on something, like an example is creating a proof of concept for this Monorepo approach, I can get stuck in for a week. I don't have to worry about writing tests. I don't have to worry about production-ready code. I can get a lot done in a week of focus and without distraction. As I said, without worrying too much about code quality. You're maybe spiking on a solution to something, and you want to show your results and not have to justify what you're doing. So it's a way of giving responsibility to our individual engineers, and also to give ultimately give value back to the company. What we're doing. I think that's it, guys. So hope to see you for Guinness later on.